The warship hung over Earth's upper atmosphere like a silver dagger. Inside its command bridge, Supreme Warlord Drexer leaned against the viewport, for clawed fingers tapping the glass with calculated boredom. "Primitive world," he muttered, eyes narrowed at the green planet below. "Barely defended. Overgrown. Uncivilized." Behind him, Commander Tars shifted uncomfortably in his exosuit. "Their communication silence has held for cycles, Warlord. No reply to the Council's summons. Shall we proceed?" Drexer sneered. "They mock us with silence. Then we answer with conquest." He raised his voice to the entire deck. "Begin Operation Sweep and Claim. Deploy jungle crawlers. Leave a perimeter. Burn as needed." Outside, drop pods launched, slicing through the cloud cover. Each pod carried a squad of Jarn Dominion infantry, augmented, armored, and cocky. Beneath the canopy, Earth's reclaimed jungle stretched endlessly. Trees towered like cathedral pillars, vines draped like serpent veins, and a heavy mist curled between it all. The first squad landed in a clearing. "Area secured," barked Unit Captain Verl. He turned to his troops. "We'll have this relic of a jungle cleared by sundown. Scan for resources. Watch for local wildlife. Frag anything that moves." Laughter. One trooper kicked over a moss-covered log. Another scorched a nearby tree just to see how it screamed in infrared. "Humans probably hunt with sticks," a grunt said through his helmet. "I brought 3 flommers. Should have brought a net and a frying pan." No one saw the eyes in the trees. From 50 feet up, hidden in layered leaves and cloaking mist, Ava Navarro lay still. Even her breath aligned with the rustle of the wind. Her face was streaked in ash-gray mud, her armor a second skin of moss, bark, and tech woven tight. She didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Her fingers hovered just above a small, curved blade coated in paralytic fungi. 14 boots. 2 flommers. Scanning range, limited to front arcs. Idiots. She tapped her comms implant once. "Ghost leaf to Pack 2. Green light confirmed. Targets exposed. Minimum resistance. Static." Then a whisper. "Copy. Pack 2 ready?" Below, the Jarn troops moved in lazy formation, overly confident, sensors pointed forward, eyes everywhere but the canopy. Ava moved like a shadow across the branches. No sound. No trace. Then strike. Her blade slid into the back of the lead trooper's neck. Not deep. Just enough. He stiffened, convulsed silently, and collapsed into the foliage. Gone. No alert. No scream. Ava melted backward into the green. A second vanished 30 seconds later. This one pulled into a root nest under a bush. The squad didn't notice until it was too late. "Where's Private Crean?" someone said. "Probably wandered off to take a leak." "Nah, sensors would've. Wait, I'm not getting his tag." Panic spread like heat. "Everyone regroup, sound off." "Crean? Rule?" A thud. The squad turned. A severed helmet rolled into their clearing, red smear across the visor. Something was tucked inside. A bone. Human. Engraved with alien numerals, coordinates. Their coordinates. Then came the sounds. Not from the trees. From inside their helmets. Static. Feedback. Then, whispers. In perfect Jarn dialect. "Mockery! Mockery! Mockery!" The jungle laughed. The flommers activated, firing wildly in arcs. Vines lit like kindling. Screams echoed as fire circled too close. But the enemy wasn't in the trees anymore. It was behind them. Ghostleaf dropped from the canopy like a phantom, her boots landing in silence. She moved between them, slipping blades through gaps in armor. One fell, then another. A flamer turned, too slow. She disarmed him, twisted his wrist backward with a crack, and buried her blade under his chin. She didn't speak. She didn't gloat. This wasn't revenge yet. This was reminder. In under 3 minutes, only one soldier remained. He stumbled backward, dropped his rifle, slipped on blood-slick moss, and stared up at her. Her face was still mostly obscured, just enough for him to see human eyes glowing faintly in the filtered visor. "Why?" he asked, shivering. We just came to scan. We were told you were dead silent." Ava stepped forward. "That's what we wanted." She knelt beside him. "But silence doesn't mean surrender. It means patience." She touched her comms again. "One left. Tag for evac interrogation." From above, 2 vines dropped, modified with smart carbon threads, and dragged him screaming into the trees. On the warship orbiting above, Drexler stood over a glowing hologram of his unit feed. His smile faltered. All signals lost. No comms. No telemetry. Just static. "Explain this," he growled. Tars fumbled with controls. "Interference from the atmosphere? Sabotage? I don't know, Warlord. We had full spectrum lock." A red light blinked on the deck. Incoming object. Small. The command chamber went silent. The crate landed with a thud, one of theirs, jettisoned from Earth's surface. Clean, undamaged? Inside, a necklace of alien bones splattered with blood. And a message etched on a metal plate. "Return property." Below it, a single word in English, which none of the Jarn understood. But Drexler did. He'd read human files. Knew enough to feel his stomach twist. The word was beginner's warning. The jungle wasn't just a setting, it was a memory. Every tree, every root, every breath of damp air remembered blood. Ava Navarro crouched beneath a collapsed vine arch, her fingers sliding across a scar etched into its bark. The wound was old, burned in by a flamethrower 12 years ago during a Jarn probe mission. They hadn't even landed then, just scraped the surface. But the jungle had learned. And so had Ava. She whispered into her comm. "Phase 2 underway. Ghost Leaf moving north ridge. Pack 2, hold perimeter." "Copy, Ghost." A hushed reply came. "Drones spotted 3 crawler units moving west, cutting brush. Let 'em. Noise attracts bigger things." She moved through the undergrowth, stepping between gnarled roots with the ease of a panther. No crunch. No snap. Her body blended with shadow and light, skin painted in thermal dampening paste, suit flexing with each subtle shift in heat signature. 10 clicks northeast, the invaders roared like blind beasts. Massive crawler tanks groaned through the forest, blades spinning, uprooting trees, spraying defoliant. A mist of chemical poison hissed into the air, killing birds mid-flight. Inside the lead crawler, a Jarn engineer adjusted his filters. "Still no contact. Sensors show nothing." "There's never nothing," replied his partner, squinting at the screens. "Even dead air has static." The canopy above them shifted, just slightly. Too late. With a thunderous crack, an entire tree, its core hollowed and rigged with pulsing roots, fell directly onto the crawler's turret. The structure groaned, then collapsed inward, swallowing the crew. A moment later, the crawler detonated in a burst of flame and hissing steam. No gunfire. No enemy. Just jungle. The second crawler reversed, panic in every grinding track. It backed over a set of vines that pulsed. Boom. A biocharge made from compressed spores and scavenged Jarn munitions erupted beneath it, flipping the crawler on its side like a toy. From the high canopy, Ava watched the chaos. "Just like training," she muttered. 15 years earlier. Ava was 16, barefoot, blindfolded, and bleeding from a branch scratch that had barely missed her eye. Around her, the jungle whispered secrets only survivors heard. "If you breathe wrong, it hears you," growled her instructor. "If you sweat fear, it tastes you." She knelt in silence, heart pounding. "There are no enemies here. Only you. If you fail, it's not the jungle's fault." A twig snapped behind her. She spun, blade drawn, and halted it an inch from the instructor's neck. He grinned. "Good. Now do it again. But this time, in the rain." The memories didn't distract her now. They reminded her who she was, the jungle's shadow, its human weapon. She crept to a vantage ledge overlooking the new clearing where the aliens had scorched a temporary camp. Blackened earth steamed, and sensor beacons glowed along the perimeter. Jarn soldiers patrolled stiffly, confused by their own unease. Despite their armor, despite their tech, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "We need aerial eyes," one muttered. "Command says their drones jammed." "Then use the old ones." A squad launched a pack of hover scouts, basic, durable, analog. They lifted into the mist. And vanished. The feed cut out 3 seconds later. No crash. No shot. Just silence. Inside the canopy, a flock of engineered birds, metalbone hybrids, coded by Ava's team, returned to roost, each with a torn drone part in its beak. One chirped once, twice, then dissolved the evidence into its stomach's acid pouch. Ava grinned. Nature always adapts. She moved again, down to the outer ring of the camp. It was time to talk. She activated a captured Jarn helmet's comms and patched into their squad frequency. So much fire. So much noise. What are you afraid of? The signal cracked. Who is this? You came here thinking Earth was a relic. Thought we were extinct. But you didn't ask what the jungle became without us. Identify. We didn't vanish. We evolved. So did it. She cut the signal before they could trace it. Inside the camp, weapons spun in all directions. Soldiers shouted orders, sensors scanned, but still, nothing moved. Until it did. The underbrush split, not from the outside in, but from underneath. A sinkhole opened beneath a communications relay post, swallowing the structure and 2 soldiers whole. Their screams were brief. From across the ridge, a chorus of howler monkeys began howling. The sound was distorted, digitally twisted, mimicking Jarn distress calls. Paranoia took hold. Drexer watched all of this unfold from orbit, fists clenched behind his back. Explain to me how an uninhabited jungle is defeating mechanized infantry. Tars gulped. We assumed Earth's jungles were wild zones, no strategic defense. But their interference patterns, it's coordinated. You mean weaponized? He nodded slowly. Yes, Warlord. Organic defenses. Sensor warping. Adaptive traps. Drexer's eyes narrowed. They're not just resisting. They're playing. At dusk, Ava returned to her drop base hidden beneath a tangle of roots larger than a building. Her team was already there, faces mud-slick, gear humming quietly. Pack 1 reporting. 2 crawlers down. Camp destabilized. Phase 2 complete. Ava nodded. Phase 3 begins tomorrow. We don't kill them all at once. We make them bleed for every leaf. They'll call reinforcements. She smiled coldly. Good. Let them send more. She looked up at the canopy, at the stars barely visible through the mist. Let them try to claim Earth again. They'll learn what we became the hard way. The night pressed down like a living thing, dense and wet, wrapping the world in its suffocating embrace. Ava Navarro sat motionless, knees drawn up, her back against the moss-covered trunk of a tree that had lived for centuries. Her breath was slow and steady, a practiced rhythm that had become second nature over the years. The jungle had turned quiet. Too quiet. It was the silence that signaled danger. Pack 2 report in. Ava's voice was soft, but the words sliced through the air like the edge of a blade. All clear, came the response from the northern edge. We've secured the perimeter. No sign of movement. Ava's fingers flexed, the faint hum of her tactical suit the only sound as she adjusted her position. Phase 3 is a go. We're drawing them in. In the distance, faint whirs of alien drones sliced through the air, scanning the forest floor. The Jarn forces had begun their counteroffensive, deploying more units and calling in reinforcements. Ava's intel was right, their desperation was palpable. They were no longer the confident, overbearing invaders they had been hours ago. Now they were reacting, scrambling, their movements erratic and disjointed. Target acquired, came the voice of one of her operatives, Pack 1's leader, Kess. Moving in now. Ava felt a slight vibration in the air. The ground beneath her feet trembled. She gripped the rough bark of the tree tighter, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. The Jarn forces were falling into the trap. They were too predictable. The jungle had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the pressure to build to a point where they would break. Below, the Jarn soldiers were confused. They had spread out in search of the rebels, moving through the undergrowth with weapons raised, scanning every inch for any sign of human life. The soldiers' advanced technology, heat sensors, motion detectors, and high-powered optics, scanned the area, but all they saw were trees. Then came the flash. A sudden burst of light, bright against the black sky, illuminated the jungle like a supernova. A flashbang. It erupted from the shadows, disorienting the nearest squad. The Jarn soldiers stumbled back, hands to their eyes, howling in pain. Before they could recover, a series of explosive charges detonated, sending trees toppling in every direction. The soldiers scrambled to regain control, but the jungle had already moved, already encircled them. "Form up!" barked the squad leader. "Don't panic, form up! We'll crush these vermin." But it was too late. The human hunters had already adapted. The forest floor, once still, had erupted with traps and weapons made from the jungle's own bones. Vines shot out from the undergrowth, strangling one soldier and pulling him screaming into the dark. Another soldier fired wildly, but the bullets disappeared into the dense trees, not a trace left behind. In the chaos, Ava appeared like a wraith. She dropped from the canopy with flawless precision, her movements fluid, ghost-like. A single knife slid across the throat of one soldier, silencing him before he could raise an alarm. A second soldier was grabbed from behind, his mouth muffled by a gloved hand, and his neck snapped with a swift twist. No shots. No screams. Only the sounds of the jungle swallowing the intruders. "What the hell is going on?" one of the soldiers muttered, fear creeping into his voice. "How are they doing this? They're everywhere." "They're ghosts," another soldier whispered, his voice cracking with terror. "No," the squad leader spat. "We've got this under control." But as he said that, he was yanked into the trees by something that never should have existed, a massive vine, as thick as a man's leg, coiled around his waist. The vine yanked him with terrifying force into the darkness, his screams fading quickly as the jungle consumed him. Ava's eyes scanned the remaining soldiers. There were only a handful left now, their movements frantic, disorganized. Panic had taken hold. "Reposition," she commanded softly through her calms. "Get the last two in the south, Pack 1, move to the west. We finish this." Meanwhile, the Jarn warlord, Drexer, paced the command bridge of his flagship, his frustration palpable. The reports from his ground units were fragmented and confusing. "What's happening on the ground?" he demanded, his voice sharp, the cold fury evident in his tone. "We've lost contact with multiple squads, Warlord," Tars responded. "Their communications are being jammed. We're receiving no visual feedback." Drexer slammed a fist against the console. "This should not be happening. We control the galaxy. We control everything." He clenched his teeth. "Bring the full force down. No more hesitation. We will level this planet if we have to." But as he spoke, a low rumble echoed through the warship. An alarm blared. "Warlord, we've been hit! Sensors malfunctioning! Multiple systems are down!" Drexer's eyes flashed with a sudden realization. They've gone to ground. Back on Earth, the trap had been set. Ava and her team had anticipated this, a full-force response from the Jarn. They had counted on the desperation, the overconfidence. Now, with the remaining soldiers scattered and their leadership faltering, it was only a matter of time before the final phase of the operation went into effect. "They're coming," Ava muttered under her breath, crouching low and signaling for her team to prepare. "They're going to make their move, and it'll be their last." The final confrontation came quickly. A massive Jarn shock troop unit, heavily armored and bristling with weaponry, marched into the clearing, their movements deliberate. They had been given orders to neutralize any remaining human threat. But they weren't prepared for what came next. Ava's team had set the ground ablaze with explosive charges, triggering the very earth beneath the invaders' feet to collapse in on itself. The shock troopers struggled, caught in a series of explosions and falling debris. The sky lit up with blinding flashes of fire, and Ava's team swept in. Ava led the charge, knives flashing in the firelight. The Jarn soldiers were cut down with brutal efficiency, the predators moving like one. There were no speeches, no calls to arms, only the sound of blades cutting through armor. The battle was over before it had really begun. With the last Jarn soldier slain, Ava stood at the center of the wreckage, the smoke rising around her like a cloak. She wiped her blade clean on the uniform of a fallen enemy and surveyed the aftermath. Her voice was calm, cold even. "Tell Drexler we've only just begun." Her comms buzzed. "Pack 2 reporting. Phase 3 complete. All targets neutralized." Ava turned, her eyes scanning the ruins. This is only the beginning." The smell of ionized metal and scorched bark clung to the humid air. Overhead, a thick haze smothered the stars, turning the jungle into a charcoal silhouette. Beneath it, the last of Drexler's command posts flickered with dying systems, sparks coughing from split cables. Ava Navarro crouched outside the perimeter, watching the dome-shaped bunker pulse with static light. Her breathing was steady, mind sharp. Everything had led to this, the final piece of her hunt. "Perimeter breach in 3, 2, 1, came Kessa's voice over comms. On cue, 2 plasma charges blew open the reinforced entryway. The shockwave rippled through the earth, and Ava surged forward, slipping between the fractured plating like smoke. Her boots didn't make a sound. Inside, alien engineers scrambled, some firing blindly into shadows, others already abandoning terminals. The smell of panic filled the chamber, bitter, metallic. Ava moved through them without pause. 2 dropped with clean shots from her sidearm, another fell to a knife across the windpipe. She didn't waste time. This wasn't vengeance. It was execution. In the center of the command dome, Drexler stood alone, a high-voltage staff in one hand, his other trembling against the command console. His once gleaming armor was scorched, the left side dented from debris. Still, he held himself tall, chin raised, as if denial could hold the world together. "You think this means anything?" he spat. "You've taken out a few squads, nothing more. The Jarn Dominion doesn't lose." Ava stepped into the light. Her face was streaked in dirt and sweat, but her eyes were still cold, still precise. "You already lost," she said. "The moment you thought Earth was unguarded." Drexler's grip tightened around the staff. "You could have stayed silent, hidden in your filth and shadows. We offered you structure, council membership, progress." Ava's blade gleamed in the dim light. "You offered chains, then mocked us when we refused." He stepped forward cautiously, the staff sparking. "You can't win. Even if you kill me, others will come. Let them." With a flick of her wrist, she tossed a small device across the floor. It rolled to the center of the chamber, blinked twice, then projected a hollow feed, live. "Galactic broadcast," she said. "You're live. Every colony. Every system. They're watching." Drexler flinched, eyes darting to the red recording indicator. The jungle's destruction, the screams, the deaths, it had all been recorded. Every mistake. Every arrogant order. The Dominion's shame was no longer a secret. "Turn that off," he snarled. Ava didn't move. "They'll see how you underestimated Earth," she said. "How your greatest warlord fell to a girl raised by trees." With a roar, he lunged. The staff cracked against the floor where Ava had been, but she was already gone, ducking low, sliding beneath his swing, and driving her boot into the back of his leg. He stumbled off balance. She came up behind him, locking his elbow, then shoving him forward into the hollow emitter. The feed didn't flicker. The galaxy watched as its so-called conqueror fell to his knees. "Do it," he hissed, coughing blood. "Finish it." Ava knelt beside him. Not yet. She activated her calm. Extraction point secure. Tagging prisoner. Tar's voice, stunned, crackled through. You're taking him alive? The galaxy needs to see the price. 2 hours later. The jungle was still again. The fires had gone out. The blood had soaked into the roots, fed the soil. Ava stood at the base of an ancient kapok tree, her team gathered around her. Above them, a Dominion shuttle, now repurposed, waited for liftoff. The captured tech would be stripped, studied, re-engineered. Earth would adapt, as it always had. Kess approached, handing her a data stick. Transmission confirmed. Galactic feeds are lit. Every system's talking. Good, Ava said. Let them. What now? She glanced back at the jungle. The canopy swayed gently, as if breathing. Now we rebuild. And wait. For what? For the next fool who thinks we're weak. Weeks later. In a council chamber halfway across the galaxy, silence reigned. Dozens of species, once dismissive of humans, watched the footage play on loop. Not the violence. Not the explosions. The silence between them. The unseen movement. The fear. One elder, a three-eyed Krellin diplomat, leaned back in his chair. We ban Earth from all future engagements, he declared. No contact. No colonization. Let them be. No one disagreed. Back on Earth. Ava stood at the edge of a ridge, jungle sprawling below her, mist curling through the treetops. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. There were no ships. No more invaders. But the jungle whispered, always. She turned to her team. Stay sharp. If they come again, we'll be ready. Kess smirked. What if they don't? Ava's lips curled into a rare smile. They will. She stepped into the trees, her body fading into green and shadow. The last words she spoke carried through the leaves like wind. This is Earth. We don't fight fair. We just win.